I think there's an inherent difference between a gig and a show. A gig is where I show up to entertain the people in your establishment. A show is where people are there to see me. It's something musicians and venues get mixed up with all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've had managers come up to me at these places and say, "You got a lot of people coming tonight? How many people are you bringing?" It depends on how good your pizza is. I don't know. I'm not bringing anybody. I'm just the guy making balloon animals for your kid's birthday party. Okay, if the whole class shows up, I'm making balloon animals for the whole class. If 3 kids show up and they don't like balloons, I'm not making any. But I'm here from contracted from 6 to 9, and you pay X rate for that. Like, you work at Starbucks. Does your boss say, "Hey, do you have friends coming in to support Starbucks today?" No, it's not your problem. Now, on the flip side, I've booked artists before at venues where the main purpose is live music. That's what they're there for. We're not opening our doors unless there's a concert. And I'll be emailing with somebody and they'll say, "Hey, can I play such and such date?" And I'm like, "Sure, we can work out this door deal or whatever." And they say, "Well, my rate is $1,000 for a 90-minute set." And I'm like, "Not if you don't have $1,000 worth of market value. You might get that at a house concert. You might get that at a listening room if there's a built-in audience and they do a concert series and you have a rapport with them." But that's where I see artists get it mixed up. Is it a gig or is it a show? Who's bringing what to the table? What you just watched or listened to was a clip from a few months ago. I had gotten together with a friend of mine for a content day, and we set up sort of a podcast style thing to interview each other to try to get some interesting content out of it. I also have been hosting a podcast since 2018 called Middle Class Rockstar. However, this clip about gigs and shows was not part of a podcast episode. Like I said, it was just to try to get some interesting content. Well, I posted that clip, and it has almost 550,000 views on Instagram alone, over 17,000 likes, 400 comments, and it's been shared over 8,000 times. And I got a bunch of new followers out of it. And you would think that I would just start putting out that type of content every day. But I don't know that that feels right. I don't know that that's me. So I haven't. I'll put out some other stuff like that when I feel like I have something to say, but I'm not doing that type of thing every day. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I do lots of different things. I like making little comedy sketches sometimes. So I'm going to continue just doing my thing on social media, but it was really neat having a video blow up because that's never happened to me before, and I've been on social media since high school or whatever, a long time. But anyway, I did decide because of this clip to turn this into an entire episode. It's called Gigs versus Shows, but instead of me just talking at you about gigs versus shows like I did in that clip, I invited a friend on, Johnny Fiaconni. If you're not familiar with Johnny, you may have seen his videos on Instagram or somewhere else on social media. He does a video pretty much every day, sitting in his car, drinking a cup of coffee, giving tips and advice on the music industry. I didn't know Johnny when I asked him to do this episode. In fact, I just met him online when we did the episode. But I liked his content and I thought he had a lot of good insight. So I just snuck all up in his DMs and said, "Hey, will you do this episode with me?" And it turned out he'd seen this video, this Gigs versus Shows video. So he agreed. And maybe we'll do a few more like this. This was a lot of fun. But anyway, I wanted to preface this episode with that because it's sort of a different kind of thing. Instead of making short content out of an interview, there was a piece of short content, and now we're turning it into a full-length episode where we really delve into this stuff, the gigs and the show, and talk about how playing cover music or music that's not your music is not necessarily just a gig. There's a bunch of cool things that we cover here, and Johnny has a lot of great insight. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Here's my conversation about gigs versus shows with Johnny Fiaconni. All right, I'm here with Johnny Fiaconni. Did I say it right?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Andy.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to chat with me.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I wanted to just start off by, I found you on Instagram. You do these videos, I don't know how often, almost daily it seems like, because when I open up my Instagram, I usually have a video from you that I haven't seen before. So you're doing a great job of, of consistency and stuff with how you're doing it. But I was hoping you could just kind of give us a little bit of an introduction about who you are and what you do.
Well, first of all, I appreciate that. I do post daily. That was my whole goal. But essentially, yeah, I'm a drummer and I guess manager of a cover band of 50s and 60s. I'm reluctant to use the term cover band, but a band that plays music from the 50s and 60s, and we've been doing it for 15 years, and it's really taken me to different places. I've learned a lot along the way. And I always wanted to just share some of the tips that I've been learning along the way because tips that other people have given me have helped me over the years. So I just kind of felt like I wanted to share that with people. And I feel like because I'm still in the thick of it, there's never a shortage of things to talk about. And, especially having moved down to California from Toronto, Canada with my band, there's just a whole new layer of just things we have to tackle on the daily. And yeah, I just really wanted to share that with people, my experiences from, being in the trenches.
And what made you make the move?
We made the move because without fully getting into it, it was just we had an opportunity to play a show down in Palm Springs, California. And from that show, we got so many opportunities. We really delivered on that show, got a lot of opportunities, and we found ourselves doing these fly-ins from Toronto to California, Toronto to California. What
Mm.
turned into coming in for a couple days turned into a couple weeks. And then we would come and we stayed for a month. We had a residency down here. So it was always something in the back of our minds. And then after the whole kind of COVID thing, we just, took the plunge on a bit of a whim, to be honest. We drove down here. We came in November, and then by January 8th, we made the move, and it was pretty crazy. Yeah,
And you like it so far?
I love it. Being from Canada, there's clouds. We're shoveling snow. I'm looking out the window. There's not a cloud in the sky. There's palm trees. This is the place to be. And California is, in my opinion, the entertainment capital of the world. Like, if you want to, really, really have a good opportunity in music or, film or anything like that, California is a top place, in my opinion,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But a
Um,
lot of bands, a lot of competition, though, I will say. So you really got to carve out your niche in the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, same things happen down here in Nashville. It's
Oh yeah.
there's a whole lot of people doing the thing.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
and so you've got a few different accounts. I know you've got Johnny G Wiz, which seems to be centered around like drum content and that sort of stuff. And then there's
Yeah.
the Dreamboats, which is your band that you moved down to California with. At Johnny Fiaconni, Johnnny, is the one that you've been posting on super consistently every day, kind of just giving quick little tidbits on the music business, whether it's here's a great way to send a booking email or whatever. It's just quick
Sure.
things. You're usually in your car in the parking lot,
Yeah.
and you've always got a cup of coffee. Every single time you've got a cup of coffee. I rarely see you drinking it. I don't know if you have drank it on the camera, but you're always holding a cup of coffee. Was that a branding thing for you that you decided to do that?
100% and 100% bacon bits. That's where it came from. And
Yeah.
he's the GOAT. And he did
Yeah.
a video on that one day. I remember he had the cigar and he's like, the reason I have this is branding. And it's so true because when you refer to his videos, it's always like, I talk to my band. I'm like, the cigar guy, he
Yep.
was talking about this. And he made a video. So it's very meta because he did that video. And then I was just like, okay, in the back of my mind, I was like, whenever I do start the channel, when I really hone in on what I want to do, I'm like, I got to have something. And I didn't overthink it. I was literally, because I live in a house with my band, having moved there. We all live together. There is no privacy. I happen to have the house to myself right now. So the car has become my studio. And I just happened to get a morning coffee. I said I was going to do it in the morning and I had it and I said, and just, and I did a little slurp, and then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's the thing. I didn't think more than 15 seconds on it, and yeah, it's become the thing. And I think it's just an easy way for people to identify. It's like, oh, the guy with the coffee. And I've
Yeah.
met people in person. We played a gig with a band who follows me, and they're like, hey, this is Johnny. He's the guy with the coffee. They're like, oh yeah. So I'm like, it was purpose. It was on purpose, and it works. It really works.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's so memorable. And a quick shout out to Matt Bacon too. I love your content. I want to see you take a puff of the cigar. I want to see him take a puff.
He said he couldn't do it because of the guidelines of Instagram. It was kind of affecting the reach, apparently. But one day, maybe one day, we will all smoke a cigar with Matt Bacon. One
Yes.
day.
Yeah, we can do an in-person thing. I don't.
That would be great. That would be great. I would love that.
Well,
Yeah,
I sort of thought about you for this episode because I would have what I would call by my standards of a viral video with this gigs versus shows thing. It's by far the most views I've ever gotten in a video. It's
yeah.
at, 415,000 or something. And every time I open my Instagram 3-4 months later, I've got a few new followers. It's kind of crazy. And
Sure.
and I thought I had several people comment like, "Where's the podcast episode talking about this?" And I just have to tell people there isn't one. And then I thought that's dumb. I should probably make a full episode dedicated to it. And I thought I don't want to do it by myself. I want to get somebody else in, some other perspective. So you were the first person I thought of, and I'm so happy you're able to do it. So thanks.
I'm honored. I'm honored. And that was a great video. I'm so glad you reached out, like I said, because I saw that video and you just really happened to hit this like good point that a lot of people struggle with, like what is a gig,
Right.
and you just really succinctly put things and really put it into perspective of how, if you're working another job, it's like, would you expect people to come out? It was just, you had a really good way of wording that. And I think that's why I connected with a lot of musicians. I think a lot of people have been in that situation and maybe haven't taken the time to actually think about the differences between those.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's something I've thought a lot about over the last couple years. And in 2024, I had my biggest gig year ever. I made a pie
Nice.
chart at the end of the year, and I did it by month, by gig versus show as well. And I ended up with 246 performances, which
Nice.
is too many, in my opinion. Uh,
Okay.
not because I don't love it, but because the vast majority of them. I mean, I think I was the lead singer on like 244 of them. So
Wow.
I had a couple wedding gigs where I was just asked to play keys and not sing, but on almost everything I was the singer. And my the thing that I'm passionate about is I'm a songwriter. And I love to play originals solo. I tour, do listening rooms, house concerts. I tour with my band. It's kind of
Sure.
a rock Americana thing. And I'm looking at this like, how did I end up playing this much where I'm singing for 3-4 hours a night, either in Denver or downtown Nashville, and not spending enough time like nurturing my relationships at home, uh, traveling a ton. And then when I'm home, I'm not home. I'm passing my wife in the driveway as she gets home from work to go to a gig. So I started thinking about I want to gradually move to all shows and no gigs, at some point. It doesn't
Sure.
have to be 2025. And I want to afford myself the ability to be home when I'm home.
Amen. I get it. I get it. That's a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes people say, and there's a lot of gigging musicians who are doing that amount of gigs, but that's a lot. It takes a toll and it really brings you to the conclusion. And the reason I'm there as well, like we just had the busiest year of our life. We're still in it, but we've
Yeah.
had the busiest month. We were doing like 5 shows a week and they weren't even tours. They're just drive outs and coming back. And it just really brings you to a point where you're just like, I want to be doing less for more money. I want more quality at the end of the day. That's at least where I'm at. And, because you start to value, it's like, yeah, I want to be at home. I want to pursue the original music. I want to pursue some of the more creative side to things. And it's tough. And it's a blessing too, having that much work and being that busy. But at the same time, that comes with a price as well. And, at some point, I think it's important to try and level up from that and just pick more quality over quantity, at least in my opinion.
Well, and what does that balance look like for your band at this point?
With my band specifically, it's doing less gigs at a higher pay rate. But now we're getting into theaters.
Hmm.
I actually have a video coming out on this, but we're getting into theaters and performing arts centers. And it's like
Right.
we booked gigs about a year ago, and we're doing all these summer concert series right now. And the thing is that those pay on the lower end of the spectrum, but you're playing in front of a lot of people, a built-in crowd. But what's happening there is that people are seeing us in that kind of scenario, and it's hard for them to imagine us doing these theater shows, which is what we are doing out of state. And the theater shows pay, like 4 or 5 times what the cities can pay. And it's like I would rather be putting all of my energy into building that show up. So maybe you only have, 6 or 7 shows a month, but they're high quality shows. People are viewing you in a better light. You're building clout, you're building prestige, and the band is on a trajectory as opposed to just doing the gigs to keep the pockets full. So that's kind of what that looks like on our end, is just doing less of the weekend warrior stuff, the midweek drive things, and just getting into the next tier of gigs that pay well, they treat you well, and you just feel like you're growing your career at that kind of level.
You use the word trajectory, and do you do that specifically through, is that a monetary thing when you say trajectory? I mean, do you start off each year and say this is our annual goal? What does that sort of thing look like for you?
It has been. It has been.
Mm,
And as a result of setting these high goals, it's like that's why we had such a busy year this year, and we're
yeah,
going to hit the goal. But at the same
nice.
time, I have a goal for next year, and I couldn't, there's only so many days in a week that you can work at a certain rate if you want to hit a certain goal. There's not enough time in the day. So at some point, if you do have your eyes set on a higher monetary value, it's like you do have to be a little more choosy with the gigs you do. It's so much better to do. You could be playing all week doing $2,000 gigs, but you get one $15,000 gig, or do a theater at maybe 20,000. It's like, what would you rather do? I would rather spend my whole week preparing for that show and
Hmm.
getting all things dialed in and lights and sound, as opposed to just every day doing that. You know what I mean? But it is
Sure.
a monetary value, but we are doing covers, so I understand it's a little different. But with that monetary value comes the growth that has to come in order to
Yeah.
get to that level of gig. It comes naturally.
When you talk about being able to prep for a single gig because you're getting enough money to do it, it is really tough. If you're playing, say, 200, 150, or $200 gigs a year, it's really tough to be totally present, both from a performance standpoint and especially from a prep standpoint. And I know because I've been it. I've been in that. You're talking about being choosy about what you take, right? Maybe
Yeah.
holding out for a $15,000 guarantee. Have you ever been in a situation with yourself or with the band where that's been a little nerve wracking? Like, oh,
Oh,
gee,
yeah.
we haven't gotten the $15,000 gig. We should have taken these five $2,000 gigs to pay our rent.
We're in that right now. And like I
Mm,
said, I did a video that will come out on this, but we're in that right now. It's really hard, to predict ahead where we're going to be in a year's time, especially when some of these gigs we booked like a year ago and they're at a certain level. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough kind of giving up certain things to go up. Like, for example, we've been getting these New Year's Eve gig offers. And it's like, it's so tough because people reach out to us so far in advance and it's not at the rate. And then we're like, do we hold off for something better? Oh, but this one is here and this is the sure thing. It's a constant game. It's a game of chicken with the
yeah,
market. It's
right.
like you're holding off for something better. But I think, you're never going to time things perfectly. You are going to miss out some opportunities as you're trying to get to a next level. I think it's inevitable, but I think
Right.
it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to turn gigs down. That's pretty unanimous for people who have grown to the next level. But my band is in that stage right now, and we've had to level up and go through these growing pains several times in our career. But this is like a new one. It always is a new one for every new level. Have you gone through those kind of pains? Like, how have you dealt with that?
Well, absolutely. And then I moved to Nashville, and a lot of my gigs, the price just gets cut in half, right? Because you're
Sure.
the new
Okay.
guy in town, and it's Nashville. So I sort of had to just swallow my pride a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to focus on building my career in my originals and getting those good listening room shows, the folk festival, whatever,
Yeah,
getting those big things. And when I'm home, I want easy money. I don't care if it pays the most. I want to put my effort into my original project. So I want those cover gigs where I know the rep, I can go nail it. I can do it 5 or 6 times in a week if I need to. And I would like to grow out of doing that, but sort of where I've been lately is, okay, I want to put as much time as possible into my thing. And when I'm not doing my thing, I want it to be, low stress, be able to just go do
sure,
it. You know what I mean?
sure. I think there's nothing wrong with that. First of all, just having played over 200 shows is like you become a beast. Like you become great at performing. It's like, yeah, things are second nature. And I think that is a skill that is just so great that can translate into original music. It just, your confidence on stage, I'm sure, is just unparalleled. Like you don't play that many gigs and just not be really dialed in with yourself as a performer. You know what I mean? So I think that's
Yes.
great. It's great to be in that position, to have been in the trenches and done that many gigs. Like that's commendable, at the
Well,
end
and
of the
it's
day.
it's a different kind of practice, performance practice, to where I can kind of, even if someone gives me $50 and the cover's kind of a train wreck, it's happened to all of us on a request. I can get through it, just because
Yeah,
of performance practice, or I can not get nervous in the moment and say, okay, I want to go back and sing the chorus again and get out of here. Whatever it
sure.
is, those types of things happen. You sort of got
Yeah.
into another thing there that I find really interesting. Um, the idea of a day job, or an additional source of income. For me, that's it. Andy Sydow, the artist, is a singer songwriter, and Andy Sydow, the musician, goes and plays piano downtown, or whatever, in hotel lobbies.
Sure.
Um, a lot of people do that. A lot of people have a day job, so they can focus on their music. I mean, are you at a point now where, I guess I should ask, do you have any other sources of income that you're using to help out, or is it all the band?
In terms of help, like I have some minor investments, but in terms of
Yeah,
like a day job, I don't have anything. I've been doing the
that's
Dreamboat
great.
specifically,
Mm,
yeah, since 2016,
wow.
and just the Dreamboats because I really doubled down on that. And I might do the odd gig with someone if they call me because I like being tested to see if my
Yeah,
chops are still there, learning songs, put my money
yeah,
where my mouth is. So I'll do that from time to time, but I've just really been like, okay, I'm doing the Dreamboats. I love this era of music, and I'm going to just take it to the max and feel like there's no excuse. And to even talk about what you're saying is that a lot of people, their day job is doing the cover gig and playing
hmm,
piano at a piano bar or doing the wedding thing. But I think the fact that that's viewed as the day job, that's sometimes sad. That's sometimes a tough pill for people to swallow who do original music as well. And I think a way to combat that, it, it's like you're fighting on both sides. It's a
yeah,
shame because I do feel like covers can be a lot of fun. It's like if you enjoy
yes,
playing your instrument and performing, then it's like covers aren't, the cursed thing that people say they are. It's like if you
yeah,
love the songs you're playing, you can really own them and have fun with it. Like that's your time to have the song on autopilot and
mm,
just like enjoy playing the song and remember why you like actually playing your instrument. And that, that's how I approach our band. It's like, yeah, I've played Johnny Be Good like thousands of times. But it's just like we do high kicks in it and I'm joking around with the guys and we it evolves and it changes over the years and we find ways to make it fun. And I think if people are doing covers as the day job, just know that you can have fun with it. Like you
yeah,
don't have to put that label that it is the day job. It's like this can be fun. Like
mm,
you are having a career playing music. Like think
yes,
back to your 10-year
yes.
old or 12-year old self and like they would be like, "Yeah, man, I think so. I think it would." It
The
would.
the reason I have it as my day job is I wouldn't rather do anything else.
Yes.
You know,
Sure.
So I absolutely love that, and I think you hit on.
But
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, but I was gonna say a lot of people like I talk. I think my little corner of the market is talking about bands from a cover band perspective. Although I do touch upon band dynamics in general, but a lot of
Yes.
people come after me and they're like, "Oh, you're selling your soul doing covers," and I'm just like, you know what? A lot of people just don't like writing original music. Like I
Yeah.
think there's this stigma. People think that if you play, you have to write your own original music. And I'm like, that's not the case. That's not the case with a lot of drummers. Some people like playing the drums and they'll play with an original band, they'll play with a cover band. It's
Right.
like there are a lot of people out there who might even feel the pressure that they have to write original music when their heart is not in it. Maybe they're not good. Maybe they just don't like it. They want to rip guitar solos all night and Van Halen like stuff. Then it's like being a Van Halen tribute band and be the best at it. And
Yes.
I feel like there's that stigma about covers, but some people just like to perform and be on stage, you know?
I love that. I love that. I love everything you just said, and it hits on so many comments I got on this video.
Sure.
I mean, countless people saying something to the effect of, gigs are covers and shows are originals. And I totally understand where that mindset comes from. I get it, right? If you're like, I'm just doing this till I get discovered and, whatever. I get it. I get the
Yeah.
fantasy of it. But I also think it's totally not true. The Dreamboats, you're putting on shows.
Yeah. Yeah. We're putting on shows. Yeah. I mean, we're doing covers, but we're doing them because we love the songs. We do them in our style and it's a show. It's like,
Yes.
people are hopping around. They're jumping off my kick drum. We're doing the splits behind the back. Like that may seem excessive to a lot of people, but it's like, we're taking it to the max. We're having fun with these things. And like I said, I think a lot of people do covers and it's just very, and it's like sometimes I want to remind people, I'm like, you're entertaining people here,
Yes.
you're putting on a
Entertainment
show.
industry. Hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like, a big balance thing is that some people are like, oh, the music should talk for itself. And I'm like, you know what? There are bands that are out there where the music does speak for itself and the show is down here and the music speaks for itself. But I'm like, you
Hmm.
got to have some really good originals that are connecting with people. But you can't have both the show and the songs not there. You know what I mean? It's like there's a pendulum here. And it's like either you
Yes.
have performance value or you got really good songs. That's at least what I think in the original realm, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I would say probably a vast majority of the original bands and artists that break through put on a phenomenal show. I mean, if it's just the songs, they got to be really, 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 really good.
Yeah. And I think, it's, and you must know because you get a lot of comments, but people are quick to jump to, well, what about this band? Well, what about this band? I'm like, yeah, you're talking about bands that have had hit songs, hit after hit after hit. Like they've earned the right to, maybe wear sandals on stage. I joke about that. But, I'm
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
you're comparing like the cream of the crop to like just a band trying to make it. And I'm like, wouldn't you want to have any kind of advantage, along the way if you want to grow? That's how I think of it. And
Yes.
even going from the gigs versus shows, it's like even at a gig, you never know who's there. It's like you might get discovered for doing a cover of Wonderwall, and then
Absolutely.
someone's like, that's the best I've ever heard it. And then they discover that you have great music and then it takes off. Like that happens to people. And I think it's just an outlook thing on how you view a gig or a show. It's like you should view them all as something like serious. If you care about growing your career, it's just always take it as if someone special is watching. That's how
Yeah.
I view it anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there is a level of professionalism that you need to be at. No, I mean, and part of the thing with these gigs, there's a place I play at where I'm expected to dress up and play a certain repertoire, right? And I know the repertoire, and like I said, it's I hate to say easy money, right? I'm working hard for it, but I know I'm going to go do the thing. But
Yeah.
part of the deal is you have to perform on this level. You got to do it at a certain level. And I love everything you're saying about that. And I also think about, when I play songs on, like the one I'm going to do tonight downtown, I do play a lot of the songs the way that I would play them. It's got
Yeah.
my own artistry on it. And I meet people that way all the time. You know, they you play some covers, you throw in an original or whatever, and they follow you on Instagram, and you
Yeah.
know, that's
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah, I go to see so many cover bands because I like how they do a certain song. And it's
Yeah.
crazy because they'll play the same set list they'll do the same 3 sets, bar show, the same songs, and I'm like, I can't wait till they play that song because they do such a good job at it. And it's just like I feel like in this day and age too, a lot of people, the sky is the limit. Like for example, you could be doing a gig and playing to no one. There could be 5 people in the audience, but it's like, what's stopping you then from like setting up your phone and filming yourself and getting
Yeah.
some great clip out of it? Like play for the internet, play for social media at that point.
Yeah.
I know people who go live, they're live streaming at bars, and I've seen them at the bar, and the bar is
Right.
empty, and they're live streaming, they're making tips going live. So I'm like, it's just you don't have to think two-dimensional. Like there's another angle here, and
Yeah.
if you're doing a cover gig and you're feeling bored, it's like, yeah, you could spice it up, you could film yourself, you could try something different. You could put your bass guitar up higher for a show and film it and be like, trying wearing the nipple rider. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's just, if you're being, I'm just
Content idea for bass players. Yeah.
Yes, but it's just like, and I did that with my drumming channel. I just started filming myself, and I started realizing, like, every time I drop a stick, I get these blooper videos, and they got millions of views on multiple platforms. So I'm like,
Yeah.
people like the bloopers. And then it became win-win, because even the shows where there wasn't a crowd that was like really engaged, I was like, I'm gonna get some killer content out of this show. It's like, it's win-win. And then I'm doing all these acrobatics, and it's like, I know if I catch them, whoever there is going to be like, wow, he's putting on a great show. And then afterwards, I got content for online that people seem to have liked. So it's like, there's no excuse if you want to grow. I really believe you can be proactive and just make it fun for yourself. You can find a way to make anything fun, even if you dread doing the gig.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. One of the other comments I got a lot of was along the lines of, "Well, I treat my gigs like shows. I show,
Yeah,
and that's great. I when people made that comment, I was like, oh, I never said you shouldn't.
sure.
But what do you think the artist's responsibility is if you're playing in a restaurant or a bar? Should the performer be expected to promote these gigs, in your opinion?
I think it's a sign of good faith, but it's like you said, it's like some of these venues, they have the built-in crowd,
Mm,
or you're showing up. It really depends, because sometimes there is a bit of a fine line, but I feel like, as
yeah,
myself, I want people to see me play. I want people to come see my band. So
right,
it's in my best interest to want people to be there, because like I said, I'm always trying to aim for the next level. If people are there, that means we can get good video footage. That means people are filming us, tagging us, adding us online. It's building the rep, it's building the clout, it's building our leverage for bigger gigs.
right.
So I personally want people there, but I don't think a venue should always necessarily rely on the band. You know what I mean? If it's a bar or a venue that's supposed to be bringing people in,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it really depends. Every venue is different. What do you think, though? What are your thoughts on that? I know you
Well,
mentioned it.
well, you know what? I've been so fortunate. I got this gig in 2020, tail end of 2020, and we would show up and play mostly covers, and we had like a plexiglass in front of every band member, and it was on again and off again for a while, but we just kept getting this gig, and I kept showing up, playing it, having a great time, trying new songs. First I was one night a week, then I got 3 nights a week, then I got 5 nights a week. Pretty soon I was booked 7 nights a week. And I
Yeah,
can't play, and
wow.
I can't do it. So I sort of became a booking agent role, where when I'm in town, I play my regular nights. I gave some nights to other people. When they can't
Yeah,
make it, I find someone else. So I handle all of that booking stuff and all the finances and everything. But it happened just from playing, enjoying the gig, and I
yeah,
got this regular gig 7 nights a week. If
Epic.
totally epic. And it's actually it's crazy that I've kept it for this long because things change, right? Restaurants go out of business. New manager comes in and doesn't like it. Anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
Where they want to go a different direction. I've been very fortunate. Something I thought about with that, though, is they never came to me and said, hey, how many people can you bring in?
Yeah.
They invested in the band and they were very clear. They sent a vibe guide.
Oh, wow.
They said, this is kind of the look. We're not going to tell you exactly what to wear. We want you to be an artist, your artistry, but this is the vibe. This is the ideal sound. You don't have to be this, but this is sort of the percentage of this type of song we're listening to.
Nice.
And I'm so fired up about this. One, because it's crystal clear. You don't show up and be like, well, what did you want me to do? If they ask you to turn down, you turn down. There's a sound system. Everyone has their mix saved. You show up, click your mix, and you play.
Wow.
And the way I've explained this to people is they invested in the music as a part of the restaurant's vibe, the same way they invested in the chandelier above the booths, the same way they invested in the white suits that all the servers wear, the same ways
Yeah.
that they invested in what alcohol they carry. I mean, it was all, they had a vision and a vibe, and they decided that they wanted a certain type of music 7 nights a week as part of their vibe, and they invested in it. It's benefited them over time. They didn't come to me after the first 4 performances and say, why aren't all your people here? I was doing it several nights a week. What do you know?
You can't do it. Yeah.
But what started happening, regulars would come into the restaurant and they would start to say, oh, what nights is Andy playing? Thursday and Friday? Cool. We're going to come in. We want this table every Friday night. So people did start coming in to see me. I did draw a crowd, but
Nice.
it was a mutual thing where, between me and the venue, it was not a, are you going to feed us a steak dinner this weekend? How many fans can you bring out to this restaurant? It wasn't like that. And I love
Sure.
that about them.
I mean, that's amazing that you did that. That's awesome. It's so great that it sounds like that venue just has a lot of intention with everything they're doing. Everything's
Yep.
intentional. And I think you found a bit of a diamond in the rough there, because that's great that they, took the chance, and
Yep.
let you grow there. I think the more we talk about it, I just feel like there's different levels of venues, and I feel
Yes.
like there are a lot of bars that have music, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they are 100% relying on the cover band to bring a crowd out. And if you don't,
Yes.
they're just going to move on to the next band. But
Yep.
that's at the lowest level because there's so many bands knocking on their door. The quality, the musicianship almost doesn't even need to be there. They just care about getting a band that's going to bring in a crowd. Like that to me is at the lowest kind of level. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's like, yeah, you could very well, like, wouldn't you rather play at a venue that has the reputation of having great acts and people go there to be like, oh, there's going to be a killer act here tonight. I know it because it's this venue. So I think there's just different levels, but I think as a band leader or as a band, you have to decide what you're willing, like if you feel like the trade-off is there, are they just using us to bring in our family and friends to sell beer? It's like most likely in the
Yeah.
early stages, you
Yeah.
can play that game. And I think you should.
Yes, you
But
absolutely should at first.
you should 100%. But you got to be good. Like you got to have some goal to rise out of that. But one thing's for sure, if you're bringing out a consistent crowd, even if you're not good, I'm reluctant to say this, but if you're filling a place, it's like they will have you back. They will have you back at that level. You know what I mean? But that won't last you long. That's not sustainable. But it's just like, bringing people in, getting people to buy booze and food.
Yep.
It's like you will get the gig. And I do think that's a good little springboard for brand new bands. But
Yes.
you got to be good. You got to be tight with your music. You can't be delusional that, people are coming there to see you. You're bringing the people out. It's an interesting topic. I think every venue's different, is what it seems.
It really is, and I mean, I booked a place for a little while years ago where we had that sort of a thing. We had some acts that weren't very good, but they brought out all their friends, and what happened is exactly what you said. Is we did keep bringing them back. The owners were like, "Bring them back,"
Yeah.
I mean, that's so sure. But when they tried to play some other venues, it was tricky.
Yeah.
It was tricky. And I'm going out on the road for a few days tomorrow with my band, doing our original music. We slip in some covers, of course, our versions of them. It's going to be a ton of fun. The tour is going to lose money. We're doing one that's going to make us some good money, one that's going to be decent, and the rest are largely new markets. And we are calling, texting, emailing everybody
Yeah.
we know in those towns, and playing the game a little bit. And I know it ahead of time, but it's just it's an interesting thing to break into with the touring and original music for sure. But it's an investment, and I think if we go and perform well, and are nice people, it will lead to good things.
Yeah. Well, I think bottom line with original music is like if you're getting any kind of opportunity, it's like you want to deliver it at the best quality possible. You know what I mean? With
Yeah.
original music, you want to convince whoever is in that room, which might be very few people at first, not necessarily on your tour, but for anyone, you want to convince them that you got something special, like that they are witnessing you coming through town the first time and they're like, oh, like I stumbled upon someone great right now. Like that's the ultimate goal, at least in my opinion. If you can
Yep.
convince the few people are there to come out, it's like you have to really go into it with like, how or why should someone come back and see me? Like when you really start asking those questions, it gets deep. It's just like, oh, because my music's good. And you're like, well, maybe it's not good if they're not coming back. Or maybe I have a crazy show. It's like, well, maybe
Yeah.
it's not crazy enough, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think you can't, a lot of people are delusional just being like, I write music, people should listen to it. And I'm just like, no, they shouldn't.
Right.
You know, it's tough. You know, it's tough. But going on the road is so key. And I think even when it comes to promotion, I've been out of that original game for a while, but I know it's like if you can with my band, like when we went over to Spain, we did a bunch of ads running, and that was when the Dreamboats were doing original music and cover music. And I just spun it. It was just like 50s and 60s music, and it was us jumping around. It was this quick, like 30-second ad. And it just got people there. We had so many people at the show because I painted this picture for people. I was very proud of that because it paid
Yeah.
off. All those shows were full first time. And I didn't say like Chuck Berry and Elvis. I was just like retro rock and roll, you know, dance party or whatever it may be. And I painted that picture and people came out. And I do feel like people can do that to this day. It's like you gotta show people what they're getting into by coming and just really thinking what is going to get them to come to that venue. Paint a story. It's like, yeah, this is my first time coming. I'm big here, you know, I'm taking a chance on your town. Like, I don't know what that angle is, but there is an angle. There's a you can solve every puzzle. I do believe, you know, so that's exciting that you're doing that. That's great.
Yeah. It will be. Well, it's going to be a great time, and
Sure.
it's an awesome opportunity. I wanted to ask you about the original music thing a little bit and get your perspective on it because your branding is incredible. You're very focused and very intentioned about what you do with your career. And you may have answered some of this just now, but I just because I had it written down.
Yeah.
What can musicians and artists do who want to perform and play original music but are having trouble bringing people out to shows in other towns? Does that mean it's too early to tour? Are there ways you can do it? Is there compromise? Is it all about social media at first? I realize I'm firing off a bunch of things on
Yeah.
offhand here. Is it all about social media at first? Can you start out at crowded bars on tour and expect to move up into theaters at some point? I'd be interested to hear your take on that.
It's tough because, like I said, I've been out of the original band realm. It was tough for our band to make that decision where we're like, look, the originals aren't working with the Dreamboats. Let's just stick to what we do best, the covers.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like at the end of the day, social media is so key. It's so key to being discovered. It's like there's almost no excuse other than putting the intention and the work into figuring out why should people come to the show. And you got to paint that kind of picture. Like I said, any opportunity you're given, it kind of snowballs. You know, there's no right or wrong formula, but it's like you got to over deliver at the gigs that you do get an opportunity when you convince another band in another town to open for you, or you convince a promoter in a new market to book you. Then it's like, you got to show up there. You got to at least show that you're doing your best, show that you care, and then deliver like something with either great music or a great memorable show that people are going to talk about, or both. But it can't be neither when you're going there. Like, you have to really try and build fans everywhere you go, even online. It's like, gone are the days of just joking around and doing silly things online. It's like you're
Right.
competing with so many real entertainers at this point. You know what I mean? And you can still do it, and that works for a lot of bands. But I'm saying, people with music, you got to paint a vibe and a picture, and you got to connect with people. And yeah, marketing and paying for ads, that all comes into play, in my opinion. But I feel like there's no reason why, if you were going to a new town and you knew that months in advance, that you couldn't start targeting those people in that town and trying to get people out. Like, I think that is 100%, but it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah,
a lot of work.
absolutely. Can you hear the dogs in the background?
Yeah, it's okay. We got dogs too. They're adding to the ambiance. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question per se, but I just feel like a lot of people out there, this is a general statement, is that there's a lot of excuses, and rightfully so. Music is a hard business, but I feel like there are solutions to everything. And by setting a goal, like, if you want to be playing performing arts centers and theaters as a cover band, there's a certain path to that. As an original band, there's a certain there is a certain path to that.
Yeah.
There's also a path to playing Coachella. Like, you have to be
Yeah.
intentional with what you're doing.
Right.
And I think a lot of musicians are sometimes, quote unquote, selfish. They're writing music for themselves. And I get that. And that is cool. But if you're just going to purely write for yourself, then it's your job to find the people who will like what you like. That's your
Yes.
duty. But you can't expect people to just listen to it or to just come out to a show. It's like, why? And if you don't have a good answer to that, they're not going to come. They're not going to listen to your music. It's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah. It really isn't.
No, no.
It's
But there
not.
is a
It's
way.
not. I,
There is a
I,
way.
I think too, in certain niche, whatever that word is, there's like, in the folky scene, there's Folk Alliance, house concerts, listening rooms. There's communities that rally around certain types of music. And if you're good, you can get into a concert series, even if you're not well known yet
Yeah.
in whatever, Michigan, because they're finding good people that their community is going to like. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably a great route as well if you're in the original boat.
Sure, and you can get into these scenes, but then the question is, how do you then stand out? Like, I'm all
Yeah.
about the niche scenes. I think
Yeah.
that's the best way to do it. But then it's like, how do you stand out in that scene? How do you stand out in the folk or the country scene? It's like, you get a guy like Orville Peck who's wearing the mask. Now, I know that might be like cringe or not. I'm just saying it
Yeah.
stands out.
It
It
stands out.
stands out. And I'm not saying you got to like wear something goofy or whatever, but it's like, what are you going to do? Maybe it's a style of singing. Maybe it's your backstory. It's like, hey, this guy like came from like, Sri Lanka and now like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's you have to be different. There's too much noise. There's too many bands out there trying to do exactly
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yep.
And you really got to sit down and even plan it out, write it down. Like, what is it about you that is different, that's going to connect with people in that scene? Or else you're just going to be one of a million, and it's tough to say, but it's the truth. It's the truth.
I feel like you're the kind of person that would do a great job of that, where bands send you a clip of them playing or something, and you could say, okay, here's what I would do to improve your live performance or your image or
Sure.
whatever.
It's tough though, and I will say
Yeah.
this: a lot of people send me things and ask like, "What do you think of this?" And it really, in 99% of the cases, they're newer bands, and I will say I think they need to tighten up on their performance.
Yeah.
Like, that's first and foremost. It's like, and a lot of times I'm a drummer. A lot of times it's the drummer, and a lot of times I don't have the heart to tell someone like, "Hey, your drumming isn't tight," because sometimes you got rhythm or you don't. But I would say, like, for most bands, like, listen back. If you want to really get nuts, you could play to a metronome. I hate doing that, but it'll keep you in check, at least
Yeah,
in
right.
rehearsals. I'm not saying for the live show if you don't want to, but in a rehearsal, if you try metronome, that might really expose a lot of things. But that's the number one thing. Get your band tight and don't be delusional about it. You could
Well,
probably improve.
you do have to have both things, it sounds like, right? I mean, if you're all gimmick, I'm not saying gimmick is a bad word here.
Sure.
I'm saying if you're all wearing matching suits, that's totally
Yeah.
cool, or
But you
Jimi
can't
Hendrix.
suck.
Yeah. You can't suck if you play guitar behind your back. Well, Jimi Hendrix did that, and it was awesome because Jimi Hendrix is an amazing guitar player, right?
Yeah. And songwriter. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably a thing too, and it's another thing that's really hard to be honest about, and get somebody to be honest about with you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people they'll only ask their direct circle. It's like they'll ask their family, "What do you think of my song?" Or they'll ask their friends, and they're just going to be like, "Yeah, it's great." It's so hard for someone to give honest feedback, but I think once again, if you care about improving, it's not always about you. You'll want to try and connect to people. You'll be like, "Oh, what might connect with that person who will get this?" You know, and I think it's really just good to be intentional and seek out some hard criticism from people you do admire. You know what I mean? Some people, yeah, it might not be the best to take criticism from, but I think it's important to really strive to improve at all times, because most people don't.
Yeah.
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 Most
No,
people don't.
I think that's a pretty good exclamation point right there.
Yeah. But I know we gotta potentially wrap this up right now. But I'm curious to know for you, is there any burning thing that you want to address about your video? Because I know what it's like getting comments daily and people just, maybe taking things the wrong way. I don't know. Is there something you maybe need to clear up on that video, or maybe not? Maybe it's all been said.
I don't think so. I think it was, people are going to interpret it how they interpret it. And most people, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Most people said, wow, this was very well said. Didn't have the words for this, but I feel that. And that feels really great. Some people said mean things like this guy was clearly born from a C-section, or whatever. And that kind of stuff, that's funny too, I guess. It's you just take
Sure.
it for for what it is. But anytime there's 500 comments on something, or however many there are, they're going to be from all over the place. So I know I don't have anything to clear up from it. I just wanted to chat with somebody like yourself, who's really an expert on this, and just chat about it.
Well, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I think just, as a final point here, your video clearly struck a chord with people. It got people to view it. It got people to comment. It got people to get fired up about it positively and negatively. And I think that exact thing has to be translated to your original music, to your cover band, to whatever it is. You got to do something that's going to connect with people and strike a chord. And in your case, it was just talking about a topic. And I think a lot of people can strike that chord with people if they're just a little more, once again, intentional about things. I think you can really start to trim and cut through all of the noise of the millions of other people trying to make it.
And that is where this episode ends. We got cut off. Something happened in the internet cyberspace. I don't know, but that's okay. We were wrapping up anyway. Big thanks to Johnny Fiaconni for coming on my show, Middle Class Rockstar. My podcast has been putting out episodes I have been putting out episodes since 2018. Thank you for listening. One thing I would like to ask you, the listener, is did you like this type of episode? Normally I interview artists and creatives in the industry, which is what I did here too. But instead of just talking about their life and career, we tackled a specific topic. And I'm curious for the listeners, did you like that sort of thing? Did you not like that sort of thing? Please shoot me an email, middleclassrockstar@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you liked this show, please give it a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It's a huge help and just takes a second. I'm also on Patreon at patreon.com/Andy Sydow, SYDOW. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.